Hi class, Nelson Jones here with Advanced Concepts presentation number 6, and today we're talking about how aspirin inhibits cyclooxygenase and the mechanisms and pathways of that inhibition and how it affects prostaglandins and kind of what they do too. So let's kind of get right into it. I just wanted to show a picture of the structure of aspirin here. Acetyl salicylic acid is what it's also called. And as it was mentioned in the kind of prompt, it's been around since the late 1800s and maybe even for thousands of years in different forms in the wild. But it wasn't until 1971 when a scientist named John Vane figured out that prostaglandins were responsible for causing fever, inflammation, and pain, and that aspirin treated these symptoms by preventing the prostaglandin production within the body. So we'll kind of talk about that first here. So how does aspirin prevent the production of prostaglandins? Well, prostaglandins are created from fatty acids in the cell membrane. The fatty acids are cleaved off the membrane lipid by an enzyme called phospholipase A2. So if you imagine phospholipase A2 cleaving off the membrane lipid, we have our fatty acid here. The fatty acid is catalyzed by cyclooxygenase, which is also called COX-1 or COX-2, kind of the main two forms of it. And this creates a ring in the fatty acid here through that catalyzation, and adds oxygens, which form the intermediate prostaglandin. And from this intermediate prostaglandin H2, it can be made into a myriad of different types of prostaglandins to have different sorts of effects on the body. And a few of the types of effects that these prostaglandins can have on the body is increased body temperature through activation in the hypothalamus, stimulate immune cells to cause inflammation, sensitize nerves to pain, and initiate blood clotting, just to name a few types of those. And so what aspirin does is it essentially blocks cyclooxygenase from converting the fatty acid to a prostaglandin in the first place. And this results in the inflammation, pain, and fever reduction because these prostaglandins aren't getting produced in the first place. So our second page here, looking at the mechanism of action. Like I was saying earlier, we have our aspirin, and it irreversibly inhibits cyclooxygenase by the acetylation of an amino acid serine residue. This results in the blocking of the biosynthesis of prostaglandins, so they're not being made anymore. And aspirin kind of affects COX-1 or COX-2 a little bit differently. And aspirin basically inactivates COX-1 through the acetylation of the serine residue. And with COX-2, there's more of a turning off of the ability to generate prostaglandins from COX-2. And then kind of lastly, finishing it up here, here's our membrane again, and we have our phospholipids, and they're cleaved off from the phospholipase A2. And then just kind of like I talked about earlier, you end up with your fatty acid. That's what we have here. The COX-1 or COX-2 then convert this fatty acid into the intermediate prostaglandin H2. From that intermediate, it's converted by the enzyme PGE synthase into PGI2. And then from there, the PGI2 activates a specific cell membrane receptor for the biological action. And that takes place on the platelets of the body, within the body, smooth muscle cells, cardiomyocytes, immune cells, and kind of causes those biological responses we talked about earlier, such as the increased temperature, inflammation is a big one. So I hope that helps answer the questions of the prompt. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot me an email or respond on a comment, and have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.